The fastest way to stay poor is to look rich. Every dollar spent signaling status to strangers is a dollar that will never compound. Most people spend their entire lives performing wealth for an audience that isn't watching while actual wealth remains invisible. This content is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice. The goal here is understanding, not instruction. This video explores how the performance of wealth destroys actual wealth. We live in the most documented era in human history. Everyone broadcasts their life, everyone compares. This creates psychological pressure that previous generations never experienced. By the end, you'll understand exactly how status spending works, why it feels necessary, and how it systematically prevents wealth accumulation regardless of income level. Let's start with a pattern that appears everywhere once you see it. Someone earns $60,000 annually. They drive a $45,000 car financed. Over 7 years, they wear designer clothes. They live in an expensive apartment. They take premium vacations and post the photos. They look successful. Their net worth is negative $30,000. They're drowning in debt, but you can't see that. What you see is the performance. The car, the clothes, the lifestyle, the image, and the image says wealthy. Meanwhile, someone earning the same $60,000 drives a 12-year-old sedan paid off years ago. They wear normal clothes from mainstream stores. They live modestly. They take budget trips or none at all. They look average, maybe even struggling. Their net worth is $200,000 and growing. They're building actual wealth silently, but you can't see that either. What you see is someone who appears less successful than the first person. This is the core illusion. We live in a world where the performance of wealth is visible and actual wealth is invisible. So everyone optimizes for the performance. Because that's what's measured socially, and the performance is expensive. Here's what changed over the past 20 years. Social media turned life into a broadcast. Before Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, your social comparison group was limited. You compared yourself to your immediate neighbors, coworkers, and friends you saw in person, maybe a few dozen people total. The pressure to signal status existed, but it was contained. Now your comparison group is infinite. You're comparing yourself to everyone you follow, everyone who follows you, everyone you went to high school with, everyone you worked with 10 years ago, influencers you've never met, celebrities, strangers, thousands of people, and they're all broadcasting their highlight reels. The vacation, the restaurant, the car, the house, the outfit, the watch, the experience. Every day you're exposed to hundreds of signals that other people are living better than you. Your brain wasn't designed for this level of social comparison. It's overwhelming, and it creates constant pressure to keep up, to show that you're also successful, to prove that you're not falling behind. This pressure manifests as spending. You see someone post about a vacation, you feel inadequate. You book a vacation you can't comfortably afford because not posting a vacation feels like admitting failure. You see someone with a new car, you feel behind. You upgrade your car even though your current one works fine because driving something old feels like broadcasting that you're not doing well. You see someone at a nice restaurant. You go to nice restaurants more often because staying home feels like missing out. Every purchase is a response to comparison. You're not buying the thing, you're buying the social proof that you're keeping pace, and that's expensive because the comparison never ends. There's always someone with more, doing more, showing more. You're trying to match an infinite standard that keeps rising. Here's the psychology that makes this trap so effective. Humans determine social position through visible signals. For most of human history, those signals were straightforward. In small communities, everyone knew everyone's actual situation. You couldn't fake wealth because everyone knew what you owned and what you did. Status was real, not performed. But in modern society, we live among strangers. Nobody knows your actual financial situation. They only know what you display, so display becomes everything. The car you drive signals more than the investments you hold because people can see the car. The clothes you wear signal more than your savings rate because people can see the clothes. The house you live in signals more than your net worth because people can see the house. And your brain knows this. It knows that social position is determined by visible signals. So it optimizes for visible signals even when those signals are financially destructive. Let's break down the specific mechanisms of status spending. The first is the car as financial suicide. Cars are the most visible consumption item for most people. You drive it every day, people see it, it broadcasts information about you constantly, and because of this, cars have become primary status signals. Someone driving a BMW is perceived as more successful than someone driving a Honda even if their actual financial situations are identical or reversed. Your brain knows this perception exists. So when you can afford the payment on a premium car, your brain pushes you to buy it because the social benefit feels real. The problem is that cars are depreciating assets that cost enormous amounts of money. A $45,000 car financed at 5% over 7 years costs you $52,000 total. That car will be worth $15,000 when you finish paying for it. You've lost $37,000. If you had bought a $15,000 used car with cash and invested the remaining $30,000 at 8% return over those same 7 years, you'd have $51,000. The difference between these choices is $88,000 in net worth, all because you wanted to signal status with a car that strangers see when you're sitting in traffic. The second mechanism is lifestyle presentation through housing. Where you live and how you live broadcasts constantly. A luxury apartment in a trendy neighborhood signals success. A modest apartment in an average neighborhood signals struggle even if the person in the modest apartment has 10 times the net worth of the person in the luxury apartment. This creates pressure to overspend on housing. You stretch to afford a nicer place than you need because the place itself is part of your identity. It's what you tell people when they ask where you live. It's what you show in the background of video calls. It's where you bring guests. And all of that is social performance, the actual function of. Housing is shelter, but housing has become a status signal, and status signals are expensive. Someone paying $2,000 monthly for a luxury apartment when they could pay $1,200 for a functional apartment is spending $9,600 annually on status. Over 10 years, that's $96,000 spent on presentation. Invested at 8%, that's $139,000. You traded $139,000 in wealth for the social perception of success. The third mechanism is experience-based status through travel and dining. In the past 20 years, experiences have become the primary currency of social status, especially among younger generations. It's not enough to own things, you have to do things, and those things need to be photographable and shareable. The vacation to Europe, the weekend in Miami, the music festival, the trendy restaurant, the exclusive event, each experience is expensive, but the social media value feels worth it. You're not just having the experience, you're broadcasting that you have access to these experiences. You're signaling that you're living well. The problem is that experiences are pure consumption. They provide temporary enjoyment and then they're gone. You have photos and memories, but you have no asset. The money is completely spent. And because experiences are social currency, people spend more on experiences than they can afford because not having experiences to share feels like social invisibility. Someone spending $5,000 annually on travel and dining experiences they can't comfortably afford is trading future security for present social validation. Over 20 years, that's $100,000 spent. Invested, that's $466,000 at 8% return. You traded $500,000 for Instagram posts. The fourth mechanism is brand-based identity through clothing and accessories. What you wear signals tribal belonging and status level. Designer brands, luxury watches, high-end accessories, all of these items broadcast that you have disposable income and taste. The actual functional difference between a $500 watch and a $5,000 watch is negligible. They both tell time, but the social signal is different. The expensive watch says something about you, or at least your brain believes it says something about you, and that belief drives spending. Someone who spends $3,000 annually on clothing and accessories to maintain a certain image when they could spend $800 on functional equivalents is spending $2,200 per year on status. Over 20 years, that's $44,000. Invested at 8%, that's $100,000. You traded $100,000 in wealth for the perception that you have good taste. Here's the deeper pattern underlying all status spending. You're spending money to manage other people's perceptions of you, not to improve your actual life, but to control how others see you. And the fundamental problem with this strategy is that perception is infinite. There's always someone with more. If you buy a nice car, someone has a nicer car. If you take a great vacation, someone takes a better vacation. If you wear expensive clothes, someone wears more expensive clothes. You're competing in an unwinnable game because the standard keeps rising, and the people you're trying to impress aren't actually paying that much attention. They're too busy managing their own status presentations to carefully evaluate yours. You're performing for an audience that's distracted by their own performance. Let's look at the mathematics of status spending versus wealth building over 20 years. Person A earns $70,000 annually. They spend $15,000 per year on status items, premium car payments, expensive housing, travel experiences, designer purchases, luxury dining, all the visible signals of success. Their actual savings rate is 5% of income because most of their income goes to lifestyle maintenance. Over 20 years, they save $70,000 total. With modest investment returns, they might have $100,000 at the end. Their net worth is $100,000, but they've been driving nice cars and living in nice places and looking successful for 2 decades. Person B earns the same $70,000. They drive a used car. They live modestly. They avoid status purchases. They look average, maybe even below average to outside observers, but they save 25% of their income. Over 20 years, they save $350,000. With 8% returns, they have $800,000. Their net worth is $800,000. They've been building actual wealth silently while looking unsuccessful. The difference is $700,000. Same income, same 20 years, completely different outcomes. Person A spent 2 decades performing wealth. Person B spent 2 decades building wealth. And here's the part that most people don't understand until it's too late. At the end of 20 years, person A still has to work. They still need their income to maintain their lifestyle. They have no optionality. If they lose their job, their entire lifestyle collapses because it's all funded by current income. They're trapped. Person B doesn't have to work. $800,000 invested conservatively generates $32,000 annually in income. They have options. They can work if they want. They can quit if they don't. They can take risks because they have a foundation. They're free. Person A performed wealth and remained financially fragile. Person B built wealth and gained freedom. The performance cost everything. Here's why this pattern is so hard to escape. Status spending is self-reinforcing through social groups. You're not making these decisions in isolation. You're making them within a peer group, and peer groups have spending norms. If everyone in your social circle drives nice cars, living in expensive neighborhoods, taking premium vacations, then doing anything less feels like falling behind. It feels like admitting you can't keep up. So you spend to maintain position within the group. But the group is collectively preventing everyone from building wealth. Everyone is performing for everyone else. Everyone is spending to maintain the appearance that they're doing well, and because everyone is doing it, it feels normal. It feels like what successful people do, but it's not what wealthy people do. Actually, wealthy people, people with real financial security, often look completely average. They drive normal cars, they live in normal houses, they wear normal clothes. They're invisible because they're not performing. They have nothing to prove. Their security comes from their balance sheet, not from others' perception. Consider the tech millionaire who still drives a Honda and lives in a modest house, or the successful business owner who wears jeans and t-shirts, or the quietly wealthy family that takes budget vacations and shops at regular stores. These people exist everywhere, but they're invisible because wealth is invisible. What's visible is consumption, and consumption is expensive. So the people who look wealthy are usually performing, and the people who are wealthy are usually invisible. This creates a perverse incentive structure. The behaviors that make you look successful prevent you from becoming secure, and the behaviors that build security make you look unsuccessful. You have to choose which you value more, the appearance or the reality. Here's the social media amplification effect. Before social media, you performed wealth for a small audience in limited contexts. Now, you're performing constantly for an infinite audience. Every meal could be a post, every outfit could be a story, every location could be a check-in, every purchase could be content. This transforms life into a continuous performance. You're not just living, you're curating, and curation is expensive because the standard for what's post-worthy keeps rising. A normal dinner isn't post-worthy, a trendy restaurant is post-worthy, a regular weekend isn't post-worthy. An interesting experience is post-worthy, so you spend more to have more content. You're funding your social media presence with your future financial security, and the validation you receive, the likes, the comments, the perception that you're doing well, that validation feels real. It feels like social success, but it's completely disconnected from your actual financial situation. You can have thousands of likes and be drowning in debt. You can look incredibly successful online while being one missed paycheck away from catastrophe. The performance is divorced from reality. There's a particular trap for high earners. When you earn a high income status, spending feels affordable. You make $200,000 per year. You can afford the luxury car payment, the expensive apartment, the premium lifestyle. The cash flow works. But affordability isn't the same as wisdom. Just because you can afford status purchases doesn't mean those purchases build wealth. Someone earning $200,000 who spends $180,000 annually on a high-status lifestyle saves $20,000 per year. Over 20 years, they might accumulate $400,000. Someone earning $100,000 who spends $60,000 annually saves $40,000 per year. Over 20 years, they accumulate $800,000 or more. The person earning half as much ends up with twice the wealth because they weren't spending on status. Income doesn't determine wealth. The gap between income and spending determines wealth, and status spending closes that gap regardless of income level. Here's the fundamental psychological shift required to escape status spending. You have to stop caring what strangers think. This sounds simple, but it's psychologically difficult because humans are wired for social approval. We evolved in small tribes where social approval meant survival. Being excluded meant death. So your brain treats social disapproval as a threat. When you drive an old car and people judge you, your brain experiences that judgment as danger. When you live modestly and people perceive you as less successful, your brain experiences that perception as failure. These feelings are real and powerful. Overcoming them requires consciously rejecting social validation as a priority. It requires deciding that your actual financial security matters more than others' perception of your success. This is difficult, it means. Tolerating discomfort. It means allowing people to underestimate you. It means accepting that you'll look less successful than you are. But it's the only path to actual wealth, because you cannot build wealth and perform wealth simultaneously. The resources required for performance are the same resources required for building. You must choose. The alternative framework is invisible wealth building. This means optimizing your life for actual security rather than perceived success. Drive a car that's reliable and paid off even if it's not impressive. Live in housing that's functional and affordable even if it's not trendy. Spend on experiences you genuinely value rather than experiences that photograph well. Wear clothes that are appropriate and comfortable rather than branded and expensive. Save and invest aggressively regardless of what that means for your visible lifestyle. This approach makes you invisible. People won't think you're doing well, they'll probably assume you're struggling, and that's fine, because in 20 years you'll have options they don't have, you'll have security they don't have, you'll have freedom they don't have, and they'll still be performing, still spending, still trapped in the same cycle. Meanwhile, you'll be free because you chose reality over appearance. There's a specific wealth-building behavior that feels wrong because it goes against status norms. It's called stealth wealth. This is when you have money but you don't display it. You could afford luxury items but you choose not to buy them. You could live in a bigger house but you stay in your modest place. You could drive a premium car but you keep your old sedan. To outside observers, this looks like failure. Why would someone with money not spend it? Your brain struggles with this too, because spending is how you prove success. But stealth wealth is strategic invisibility. It's choosing to be underestimated, and being underestimated has advantages nobody asks you for. Money. Nobody resents your success. Nobody has expectations about your lifestyle. You're free to make decisions based on what actually serves you rather than what maintains appearances. This is how many quietly wealthy people operate. They have significant net worth, but they look completely average. They've decoupled wealth from lifestyle, and that decoupling is what allows wealth to accumulate. Let's examine the compound effect of status spending versus wealth building over 30 years. This is the time frame that matters because wealth building is a long-term game. Person A and Person B both start at age 30 earning $60,000 annually. Both receive regular raises over 30 years and end earning $120,000 at age 60. Person A spends on status throughout: premium cars, luxury housing, expensive experiences, designer items. They maintain a high-status lifestyle. Their savings rate averages 8% of income over 30 years. They accumulate roughly $500,000 by age 60. Person B spends minimally on status: used cars, modest housing, budget experiences, normal items. They maintain an average-looking lifestyle. Their savings rate averages 30% of income over 30 years. They accumulate roughly $2.2 million by age 60. The difference is $1.7 million. Same career, same income growth, completely different outcomes. Person A performed success for 30 years and ended with moderate wealth. Person B built security invisibly for 30 years and ended with financial independence. At age 60, Person A still needs to work. Person B can retire comfortably if they choose. The performance cost $1.7 million and 30 years of freedom. Here's what nobody tells you about status spending until you've already lost years to it. The satisfaction from status purchases fades incredibly quickly. You buy the luxury car. It feels amazing for 2 weeks, then it's just your car. The novelty disappears. You've adapted. 3 months later, you see an even nicer car and feel inadequate again. You move to the expensive apartment. It feels luxurious for a month. Then it's just where you live. 6 months later, you're used to it and it no longer provides satisfaction. You take the premium vacation. It's incredible during the week you're there. Then you come home and within days you're back to your normal emotional baseline. The experience fades. The photos remain, but the emotional high is gone. Every status purchase follows this pattern: massive initial satisfaction that rapidly decays to neutral. Then you need the next purchase to feel good again. It's a hedonic treadmill. You're constantly spending to achieve a feeling that never lasts. Meanwhile, the money is permanently gone. You traded lasting financial security for temporary emotional boosts that faded within weeks. Compare this to the satisfaction curve of wealth building. When you're building wealth, the satisfaction is delayed. You save money and invest it and nothing immediately changes. You don't feel rich, you don't look successful, there's no instant gratification. For years, maybe decades, the satisfaction is mostly theoretical. You know you're building something but you can't feel it day to day. But then compound growth starts accelerating. Your investments double, then double again. Your net worth crosses thresholds: 100,000, 300,000. 500,000 and suddenly you realize you have optionality. You don't have to take that job. You don't have to tolerate that situation. You can make choices based on what you want rather than what you need. That satisfaction doesn't fade. It grows, the freedom expands, the security deepens, and it's permanent as long as you maintain the behavior. You traded temporary performances for permanent security. That's the actual trade-off. Most people don't understand they're making this trade until it's too late. There's a particular cruelty to status spending in the age of social media. You're spending real money to impress people who are also spending real money to impress you. Everyone is performing for everyone else. Everyone is in debt or financially stressed, but everyone maintains the appearance of success, so you think everyone else is doing fine and you're the only one struggling. You spend more to keep up. You go further into debt. You sacrifice more security. All to maintain a performance that matches the performances of other people who are also sacrificing security to maintain their performances. It's collective delusion. The entire social group is preventing each other from building wealth through mutual status competition. And nobody can admit they're struggling because admitting struggle breaks the performance, so it continues. Everyone competing, everyone spending, everyone trapped, everyone looking successful, everyone financially fragile. Here's the path out. You have to be willing to break the performance. This means making choices that look like failure to outside observers, driving the old car when everyone else drives nice cars, living modestly when everyone else lives luxuriously, skipping expensive experiences when everyone else is traveling, wearing normal clothes when everyone else wears designer items. Every one of these choices will feel like social failure. Your brain will tell you that you're being left behind. People will make assumptions about your success level. You'll be underestimated. And you have to be okay with that. You have to value your actual financial situation more than others' perception of your financial situation. This is the hardest part, not the math, not the budget, not the saving. The hardest part is tolerating the social discomfort of looking less successful than you are. But that discomfort is the price of actual wealth. You pay it now or you pay a much higher price later in the form of permanent financial fragility. So here's what we've covered. Status spending is optimizing for the appearance of wealth rather than the accumulation of wealth. The performance is visible while actual wealth is invisible, creating perverse incentives. Social media has amplified status pressure by expanding your comparison group to infinite strangers broadcasting highlight reels. Cars, housing, experiences, and brands are the primary mechanisms of status spending, each costing tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. The mathematics are brutal. Same income, different spending priorities, differences of hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in net worth over decades. Status spending is self-reinforcing through peer groups where everyone is performing for everyone else. High earners aren't immune. Income doesn't determine wealth. The gap between income and spending determines wealth. The satisfaction from status purchases fades rapidly while the cost is permanent. Wealth-building satisfaction is delayed but permanent. The path out requires breaking the performance and tolerating social discomfort. You must choose between appearing successful and becoming secure. You can't do both. The people who build wealth aren't performing. They're invisible, they're underestimated, they look average or below average. But they're accumulating security quietly while everyone else is accumulating debt publicly. The irony is that the performance of wealth prevents the achievement of wealth. The energy, money, and attention required to look successful is the same energy, money, and attention required to become secure. You must choose which matters more, the audience's perception or your actual situation. Most people choose perception without realizing they're choosing. They drift into status spending because it's normal. Then they spend decades performing and wondering why they're still financially stressed. The answer is that the performance itself is the problem. It's not supplementing your wealth building, it's replacing your wealth building. Every dollar spent on appearance is a dollar that will never compound. Every choice made to impress others is a choice against your future security. This isn't about deprivation or misery, it's about clarity. What do you actually value, freedom or appearance, security or status? Most people say they value freedom and security, but their spending says they value appearance and status. The behavior reveals the truth, and the behavior determines the outcome. If you value calm, educational explanations about wealth psychology and the invisible forces that shape financial outcomes, consider subscribing to Wealth Explained 360.